please go by and enjoy some holidays cheer. And then there's the tree lighting ceremony, which is typically the first Thursday in December. So kind of jointly with the Main Street Sunset Market. So you may want to consider that as well. That's always fun. Make sure you bundle up. It's chilly. Let's see. So other board members that we have here is Kevin Ham. He's one of our directors. Blaine Stewart. He's our treasurer. Kurt Bless, handling check-in. And we've got a bunch of other people that help us along the way that are delivering newsletters. We do have one route available if anybody is available to help us. It takes about half hour, 40 minutes once a month. We have newsletters 8 times a year, January through May, and then September, October, November. So if you would like to help us out and be part of the neighborhood and see all of your neighbors, come see me afterwards, okay? And we have 2 excellent speakers tonight. Our first speaker is Victor Velasco, and he is with the city engineering, and he's going to give us an update on this amazing Coast Highway Corridor plan. Before we get to that though, Joan, you have a quickie? Joan Bachman, she's a longtime neighbor and advocate.
President.
Yes, exactly.
We have a number of former presidents. So Ditmar School is being rebuilt. You may have seen the gigantic pile of dirt if you go to Baskin Robbins like I do. It's right there. The problem, I've looked over the plans, I've worked with the district. We need people to work on this. There are 0 street trees. Eucalyptus Street will be looking at a sidewalk and driveways. So I'm trying to make that better. Darlene and I are going to work on that for Eucalyptus Street, but we really need people to get involved. So if you want to be involved with that, please see me. Thank you.
So what you're saying about being involved is that you are going to make some petitions against some of the tree problems, Joan? Is that what it is?
No, we're talking to the architects in the district.
Okay, so a little bit deeper than that. Okay, cool. All right, without further ado, Victor, thank you for coming. One last thing, if you have your cell phone on, could you please turn it on vibrate?
Good idea. So it includes me, I guess.
Yes.
Thank you. So, I guess we'll go to the next page, right? So my name is Victor Velasco. I work for the City of Oceanside. I work in Development Services Department. Development Services Department houses 4 divisions. One of them is engineering. So I work in engineering, and engineering has 2 subdivisions. So one of the subdivisions is Capital Improvement Program. So Capital Improvement Program, it's the division that is in charge of any project the city is going to do, such as Fire Station 1, Crown Heights remodeling, slurry seal and overlay. Anything that the city does, it goes through CIP. So I am the principal civil engineer in that department. I'm also the ADA coordinator for the city, and I happen to be the project manager for the Coast Hwy Corridor project, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So a little bit of the overview of the Coast Hwy project. We're going to be talking about overview, the history and timeline. Also, we'll talk about the plan improvements. What is it that we're going to build out there? We're going to talk about the limits of the project. A lot of people are not certain whether the project is going to start at the 76 and go all the way to the furthest end of Coast Hwy along Oceanside. So we'll talk about the limits. We'll also talk about what the major improvements are for the project, and we'll talk about the schedule of the project, because I think that schedule is what everybody's interested in. Some of you, I remember from some of the outreach meetings, and you guys are familiar about the project, but you probably want to know where the project's at, how far along it is, when is it going to get done, and that kind of stuff. So the Coast Hwy Corridor project is meant to revitalize Coast Hwy into an urban space. Some of the goals is to make Coast Hwy a complete street. What is a complete street? A complete street is basically a street that is not only vehicular friendly, but also pedestrian friendly and bicycle friendly. That's very important for the community, especially in this area of the city where we're trying to make it more pedestrian friendly for the community and for the businesses. It's supposed to improve traffic flow. When we say traffic flow, we don't just mean vehicular traffic flow. We mean pedestrian flow and also bicycle flow. So that's what it means. And it's going to provide incentives for high quality and pedestrian-oriented area. That means that people are they're gonna feel motivated to walk and shop locally at some of the businesses. So it's supposed to help with the businesses. Next, we'll talk a little bit about the history of the project. I met some people at the first outreach meeting that they told me that they heard about this project since 2009. So some of you guys are more familiar with this project than probably I am, because you guys heard about it for years and years. So as you guys can see, the project started, the strategic plan was started in 2009. Then the technical studies, meaning environmental reports, and other associated studies and outreach started in 2013. Then on 2019, the environmental impact report was approved by the city of Oceanside. And in January of 2022, or 23, the project actually started for the design. So basically, first thing you have to do is you have to come up with a 30% design. 30% design, I'll explain a little bit. It basically outlines everything, how it's going to look, where the roundabouts are going to be, or where any improvements are going to be. And then you submit reports that analyze air quality, traffic impacts, impacts to the environment. You always want to make sure you take care of the environment and leave something for future generations to enjoy. So it takes all of that analysis, and then once you do the outreach and everything, you get an environmental impact report, and that is presented to council, and council approves it. That is complete. It's done. That set the basis of what we were going to do for the project. Now what we're doing is we're taking that design and making sure that the elevations work. Are we going to have proper drainage? How are we going to work with other agencies such as NCTD? How are we going to work with firefighters? Are they going to be able to make it through? That's what the next steps are as part of the 60% design. So what are those planned improvements? Well, there's going to be 5 major traffic improvements, which are the traffic circles, and we'll talk about the locations of those traffic circles. And also, one of the major things that we're going to do with the project is we're going to reduce the lanes from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction. Part of the reason is to accommodate for parking and for a bike lane, a dedicated bike lane. Because right now, I don't believe there is bike lanes at any location along Coast Hwy Corridor. So we need a bike lane. There's going to be hardscape and landscape improvements. Part of those landscape improvements are meant to mitigate any water quality from the impacts that we cause with any construction project, right? So that's part of the landscape improvements. And also it's going to improve ADA access. ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act. We want to make sure that whatever we build is not just meant for the able-bodied community, but also with those with certain disabilities. So it's going to provide, the ramps are going to be accessible. So we want to be inclusive to everyone. And it's going to enhance access to transit. That's another one of the major things that the project is going to do. So project limits. So where does the project start? Well, the environmental impact report analyzed the entire section of Coast Highway from the north end of Oceanside to the south end of Oceanside. And that's what was approved. But this project is only going to take part of that section and take it into design and eventually into construction. That, it's going to start at Neptune at the northern end, and it's going to go all the way down south to Oceanside Boulevard. So those are the project limits, as you can see on the picture. A little bit blurry. I'll share a link where we have those maps and you guys can pull them up and view them. So what are the major improvements? We said there was gonna be 5 traffic circles. So the first one is gonna be at Civic Center. That's right there where City Hall is, basically right next to the library. Part of the I decided it was my glasses, like I needed a new prescription, so I guess it was blurry. All right, so the first traffic circle is gonna be at Civic Center. And some of the other major improvements are gonna be ball valves and pop valves. What those do, as the word says, it pops out, and meaning that the ramp, it's closer to the center of the street. So it does a couple things. As you're driving, you see an obstruction. What's the natural thing when you see an obstruction? You slow down because there's something. So it controls traffic, it improves traffic flow. And also for the people that are walking, it allows them, it provides a shorter distance where they have to cross the street. So we have a couple of those ball valves. One of them is at Sports Fisher, and like I mentioned, the other one is a traffic circle at Civic Center. The other location is Michigan. We have a traffic circle there, and that means that they have lights there. Also at Civic Center, the traffic signals are going to be removed. And again, some additional ball valves at Topeka Street. Third location is Washington Street. And then also ball valves at Missouri. Those ball valves are there again to minimize distances across the street for pedestrians. All of these improvements that I'm mentioning here, they were part of the environmental impact report. So we're taking that and we're just taking it to the next level, because you can't go off and make a construction project out of this. We need elevations, we need grades, we need a lot of information to be able to construct this in the field. So that's where we're at right now. So another of the traffic circles is right here, Wisconsin. So it's a big intersection also, and more ball valves at Minnesota Street. So that's basically the bigger improvements: traffic circles, ball valves, and I'm sharing with you the locations of this. Some additional ball valves, and forgot to change that, because if you guys noticed, I had the ball valves on the left side and the roundabouts on the right side, and I switched it over. I guess I didn't switch, but that is the traffic circle, and that is the ball valve over here. So traffic circle at West Street, and then ball valves at Eucalyptus. So five locations for the traffic circles, and I'll answer questions at the end.
That was reversed.
Right. Yes, that's reverse. That's what I mentioned. I labeled this as a roundabout, and I labeled this as a ball valve.
So what is actually a roundabout?
Yeah, so at West Street, we're gonna have a traffic circle, not ball valves, traffic circles. Okay, so project timeline, and I'm only sharing the project timeline from where I took over the project, which was in January of 2023. Some of you know more of the history of the timeline that started back in 2009. So January 25th, 2023, we took the project to council to award a contract to the consultant who's going to take that design, or that 30% level design that was used for the environmental impact report, and take it all the way to the finish line. We had a kickoff meeting in February 13. We invited stakeholders, only city and stakeholders, meaning we have to bring our public works, fire, police, traffic. It's not just an effort. I'm not just the one running this. It's a whole city effort. It takes a lot of people. Data collection. So data collection means that we had the consultants, surveyor, go out there and pick up elevations. Because remember, we're not going to use take a 30% design and take it to the finish line. So we need a lot of information, right-of-way lines and everything. Conceptual design and geometric design started in May 2023, and it went through to October 2023. So one of the things that the consultant informed me right away is like, look, what was done was the 30% that was done was sufficient for the environmental impact report, but we need a little bit more information. We make some small changes that are still within the environmental impact report, but this is now, they're gonna take this design, so they're like, we own this design, we wanna make sure that everything's right, so they basically went back to the 30% design and make sure everything was right, and started that process. Then, once we had that 30% design, we did the first outreach meeting in January 2024, and that's where I met some of you over there, and we got to talk about the project, and you guys got to meet the consultant and ask questions there directly to them. From that moment on, we started the 60% design, and that's what we have just completed as of June 2024. We completed the 60% design. So what happens there is we get the design, and then we have to send it out for review. It means traffic goes and reviews this, fire reviews this. What else? We have geotechnical reports that need to be reviewed. We have stormwater reports that need to be reviewed. We go through all that review process, and then we continue the design effort to the final design. We still have 2 outreach meetings that we have not decided the date yet. This is to inform the public of where it is. I guess you guys get an extra outreach meeting and get to know some more information about the project. With that said, we expect the final design to be completed sometime in the summer of 2025. While we're looking at this at the 75% design, there was a couple of things that we had to analyze in deeper detail. So that's where we're at. If funding is available, right now we don't have full construction funding. We have full funding for the design. But if funding is available, we would enter the bidding phase in late summer of 2025, and then the construction would take about 8 months to a year, and that depends. There's a couple things, and that's part of the means and methods that the contractor will choose to do. In coordination, obviously, with the city, there's a lot of coordination. We want to make sure we try to minimize the impacts to a lot of the businesses, because that's one of the concerns that a lot of the businesses have. And I do have meetings with all the businesses through the Chamber of Commerce with Scott Ashton. So we bring a couple of the businesses, and then they communicate the information to the rest. So that's how we've handled that part of the process. Let's see what else we have. So I do post updates on the web pages up there. There's a really short one that we made just specific for this project, so you don't have to memorize the whole entire thing. But that you can get these plans basically if you want to look at them, print them, do whatever you want with them. You're free to do that right there. Again, my name is Victor Velasco. Thank you so much for listening. Taking it back so that everybody can see the page. I'll leave it in that page there. But if you guys have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Victor?
Yes.
I guess it'll be up to the contractors that take this on, but when it starts the construction phase, I'm guessing it'll be starting at the north end and then in 2-3 block increments. Any idea how that would be phased?
That's one of the things that we're looking, because we don't want to create a choke point. So the consultant that we have right now, it's analyzing, it's going to make recommendations. We'll have a construction management plan to figure out what's the best approach. And we will work with the contractor as he submits his plan. And as a matter of fact, even prior to bidding out the project, if we feel there's a way that he must start, if we think that the best way is to start at the north, based on the data that we obtain, we will put it on the bid documents. We'll put it in order of work, basically. And how much? Obviously, we're not going to let the contractor just come and blow up every intersection and start with that. That's chaos. The amount of phone calls and emails I would get in the city is too much. So we will choose the best approach so that we can minimize the impacts to the residents. I always tell everybody wants to have the new kitchen, right? But when you're constructing the new kitchen, at least I remember my mom and my wife, they get upset at the construction. You're like, oh, I can't cook, I have to be eating outside. But once the kitchen is done, you get to enjoy it. So it's the same thing with every project that we run through the city. Yeah, everybody wants their streets done. Everybody wants improvements there. Everybody wants their part. But when we're in construction, you hear it because it's an inconvenience, but at the end, it's worth it, I think. And what we do at the city is we're not going to stop all the impacts, because that's impossible. I'd be lying if I say there's not going to be any impact. But what we try to do is minimize those impacts. Jane?
One of the concerns I know from the neighborhood is when it reaches our area south of Mission, up to Oceanside Boulevard, what is the bypass for that plan? Is it the parallel streets, Tremont and Freeman? And what are we gonna do to mitigate the onslaught of traffic?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we will be analyzing with the construction management plan. For example, let's say we're working on a traffic circle at Michigan. So if we're working at Michigan, we'll probably have to have a detour, because one of the things is, do we do one whole circle at once? Or do we do half of it? If you do one full circle at once, it's more impacts. But guess what? You get to do it faster because you already have the people working there. And one of the things that I like about that, I think it's the safety to the contractors, even though I don't know these individuals, I don't know who's gonna be out there working, but it's always my concern that the project safety is one of the biggest issues, not only for the people driving through there, but also for the people working. So if you still have cars going through a traffic circle and you have people working in the middle, that's always a concern to me. So you have to come up with a detour plan for construction.
And safety of the neighborhood?
Safety of the neighborhood, yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to have to acquire any property from private property owners, eminent domain, and if so, where is that?
There is no eminent domain. I know I also am the project manager for the College Boulevard Widening project, and there was an attorney out there that was trying to get some work, I guess, and he started sending letters out to the residents saying that the city was gonna come in and just take their properties through eminent domain, and we started getting so many calls, and we had to go out there and say, we haven't even gone that far to determine, and no, we're not gonna do that, and we're not just gonna come in and take, do eminent domain. When the process that you do is you talk to the resident and communicate to them. As far as this project, we might need just temporary construction, because we're gonna be right at the right of way of what is city property and what's private property, so obviously we have to talk to the businesses. And one of the things I did, even before the first outreach meeting, is talk to all the businesses along, and especially to those where the traffic circles are gonna go, Ace Hardware, LTH, some of the other shops. I went in there and personally talked to them and explained to them what the process is. Now we're looking at getting some temporary construction permits, because basically, if we're doing work here, where do you think the contractor's gonna stand? Probably private property, so we have to have those permits. But as far as buying property, there's a couple sections where we might need like 5 square feet, and that's it. And it would be the corners. Basically, we need that space to be able to accommodate the ramps, but it's very minimal. John?
Yeah, John. The number one thing for safety is to slow the cars down, and that's why the Coast Highway project is so fantastic. It eliminates I-5 West. No one thinks it's a shortcut anymore. But we need to slow traffic through the entire neighborhood. So we can't have people screaming down Ditmar if they're stopped on Coast Highway. So it can all work if cars move continuously and slowly. So that's what we need on all of our streets while this construction is going on, and after, so that it continues.
Yeah, definitely. It's a must, and I think as the word gets out there that you can no longer exit the 5 South and jump into Coast Highway and speed down. People will stop, and it's going to be a dynamic. One of the things that we're doing, and we just had a meeting recently, we're already strategizing what can be done to minimize impacts to the parallel streets. So we're coming up with ideas, because we know we're going to have to implement one or more of those ideas as we move forward. Because again, it's minimizing. I'm not saying that it's not going to be an impact, but minimizing the impact.
Is there a reason the roundabouts are within 2 blocks of each other? Is there a reasoning behind that?
There was a traffic study done back when the environmental impact report was prepared, and based on the requirements, or based on the analysis, those were the locations where the traffic circles were supposed to go.
One more question.
Yes.
First, they said so much for the accident. I think for people living in this neighborhood, they know how difficult and how dangerous to cross the coastal highway at Velasco. start from the north end, but they're already red light, at least the pedestrians in the house. Right now, I'm trying to get to the coffee shop, trying to look for the car, there's no way to cross at all. So I think just something we need to consider, maybe, to prioritize the south end first, because there's no red light to cross at all.
Thank you, I appreciate
Can you
your comment.
repeat that question?
Basically, she's saying that, some of the further north end, we already have traffic signals in place. So there's already a means and method, or means, for the pedestrians to go across the street. Whereas down here, we don't have any traffic signals. So she's suggesting that we start here. So it'll be something we'll definitely take into consideration. The one thing, that's gonna, drive where do we start is not creating choke points. What are choke points? Meaning, we don't wanna start in the middle of the project, because imagine 2 lanes, then 1, and then 2, and then that, so it'll be one of 2 things. It'll either be starting at the further stands and moving towards the middle, and that's probably most likely the way, or the center and moving out. It's just, otherwise you create, those choke points. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that there's a lot more questions. One quick one?
Sure, somebody else did that. I was wondering, so, in my comment, thank you for saying that, it's really, really difficult to, and really the crossings that already have lights down here are where you're proposing doing the roundabouts. And so with the roundabouts, are there going to be traffic signals within the roundabouts, or how is that going to work for pedestrian safety?
That's a very good question. One of the things that we're gonna have, and you guys have probably seen this, it's what they're called rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Those, if you wanna know what those are located over at Tyson, along Pacific Street. So when you're trying to cross, to get to the park, it's basically you push the button and then something flashes. They're solar, so they're great. There's not a lot of a conduit that you have to install, but those are basically notify the vehicles that somebody's about to cross the street, so better slow down. So we have our RFBs proposed.
It's not a mandated stop, it's not a red light, it's an ambulance, caution lights, the city wants to cross this. So, they just hit somebody hit down at College Back Boulevard, that didn't heed the flashing lights.
And then remember that we're gonna have bulb outs at every location where there's a traffic circle, there will be bulb outs. Remember what those bulb outs do is they create an obstacle on the road, so it's a natural habit that if you're driving and you see something sticking, it's like when you're driving, if you see a car parked, you naturally slow down. So having those bulb outs stick out, it's one of the other things that it's gonna do, is gonna promote that the flow is more controlled.
You don't cross at a roundabout, you cross near a roundabout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, 2 quick ones.
Are you gonna have a roundabout at Oceanside Boulevard? Because that's gonna be a choke point.
There's no roundabout proposed with this project on Oceanside Boulevard. Nor Mission or Seagaze or Peerview, and some of those locations, the reason was right-of-way constraints. It was difficult to do them without any property acquisitions, and everything's built up or not. The city's not going to do that.
One more, real quick.
I live on Ditmar Street near Oceanside Boulevard, and we deal with the traffic, the lights there all the time coming down, when Freeman Street does, when Coast Highway gets blocked up with an accident, an event, or anything like that. Perfect example is like the parade, which we can't have parade roundabouts. But it's one of these type things where the traffic, the 50% traffic that you're gonna slow down is gonna back up somewhere. And they're gonna be going somewhere and they go fast. Ditmar Street's a racetrack. And you do this as soon as they hit the stop sign, they see a green light through a school zone at 65, 70 miles an hour every day, 24 hours a day. And the only way you're gonna slow that down is to put in roundabouts and put in speed bumps and everything else onto it. Born and raised here in Oceanside, had a business down on Coast Highway, seen the changes down there when they went to 1 lane from 2 lanes, it was right down there to 1 lane to 3. And you're talking about slowing things down for aesthetics and everything else onto it. We spent millions of dollars in a bike lane put out down by the corridor down along the railroad track, which nobody ever uses because they all ride Pacific Street. Just like they don't go down Ditmar Street on bikes or Freeman Street, so everybody wants to be toward the beach where they can see it. And the project that you're putting in here is gonna create so much chaos downtown. And you said you talked to businesses, well, I'm a businessman, and I talk to businesses, I do business for them, with them, and have do restaurants and stuff like that. Most of the businesses are against this, because it's taking away parking and the flow is not gonna be there, and people are not gonna sit in line going around the roundabouts with an extra 15 minutes, especially on the weekends. This project's great concept, but until they get I-5 fixed, where it's not backing up here, because when it does back up, as it did 2 weeks ago when they had an accident on northbound, it was backed up there to Tamarack, on Coast Highway through Carlsbad to get into Oceanside.
Sir, I'm gonna ask if you have a question that he can respond to.
Well, he can answer all the questions onto it, because the concept's great, but everybody's looking at this dog and pony show as far as what's happening to the aesthetics of Oceanside. And as far as the whole of Oceanside, it's not gonna do us a whole lot of good. It's gonna make the downtown look pretty, but these programs, as far as where they're at, the ones they've done already, San Diego just finished up within the last 6 months, they're already talking about pulling them, and a lot of ones in LA that have been done like this in this management plan have all been taken out because of litigation against it for delays and costs that have caused the businesses and people involved with it. And I don't think the city's taking this into account. And I appreciate Oceanside. Like I said, I've spent my whole life here. I've invested my business, my family, and everything else onto it. And Oceanside's a bigger, greater place. And it is. But it's one of these type things, this project is not right for downtown Oceanside.
Sir, I'd like to, wait, I'm gonna, we need to move on to our next guest. I would invite you to take down Victor's, get a card from Victor, and have a conversation with him about your concerns that are valid, but it's not gonna be answered here now. So please, reach out and connect and try to see what you can do to help mitigate some of the issues that you're concerned about.
Because a lot of us are concerned with the
Yeah.
Thank you.
cut through.
This has been
So with that, I'd like to thank Victor. Victor has also been readily available for us for updates and things like that, which I really appreciate. And I just want to let you know that this isn't like the one-off thing. He'll be back. We'll invite him back again as things progress, so that we can be right here in the know as to what's happening in our area, in our neighborhood. But as one gentleman said, Ditmar is a problem.
Yeah.
And we really hope that you keep that in mind and make sure that it's mitigated, because it's a problem now.
Yeah. No, and like I mentioned, we had discussions with the city manager, and he's asking us meaning the traffic department and engineering to look at potential solutions to implement along some of those parallel streets.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we set up our next speaker, Arlene Tendick. She is she's going to represent the 5 and 20 lots, which are over there by Mission Pacific and Hello Betty's, now Surf Club. And so this is the 2 lots that are just west of the railroad tracks on either side of the walkway underpass that we might enjoy with that beautiful classical music that keeps some of the negative impacts away. She set up? Yeah. Okay, 1 minute. A couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. We met with the city, as we do, OCNA board. We meet with the city and bring up issues about some of the concerns that we have in our neighborhood, from traffic calming, etc. You may start to see red curbs everywhere. We just got some here at Michigan and Freeman. They put some down by Communal Coffee. What the red curbs are is you can't park there, and it gives more visibility to pedestrian traffic walking back and forth. We're also pressing, there's going to be more. I don't have a schedule of where and when yet, but I guess the state has now mandated that certain intersections with a certain amount of traffic need to have these red curbs on all 4 corners. So that'll be coming. We were told in our recent meeting that the red curbs that they have in place now, they're going to start enforcing in 2025. There'll be a grace period of 1 ticket in January. Like, okay, some people aren't paying attention,
Even
what a
if
red
there's
curb
no
means.
red curb, even if there's no curb, it's 20 feet from any intersection with a perceived sidewalk.
Yeah, okay, so they're gonna start ticketing, so just beware. And again, the idea is we have more and more people riding bikes, e-bikes, they're zooming through, and people parking, trying to use some of these businesses. I know it's just a cluster, but at the same time, we have to keep aware that it's impacting our pedestrians and our neighbors and our kids that are riding these bikes. So just FYI on that. And with that, I want to introduce Arlene Tendick. She's going to talk about 5 and 20 and a little bit update on the OTC, or the Oceanside Transit Center project. And before you go, one more thing. The Oceanside Transit Center has that tunnel. Everybody go through that at any time, right? How ugly and everything. All right, well, Main Street has a design committee, which I happen to be on, and we got, North County Transit District got a $250,000 grant and now there's a project underway to beautify that whole area, the ramps and the tunnel. And so it's the project just went out for proposal to artist groups and people that can do this kind of thing. And so that should be closing on the 5th of December. And then there'll be, they'll put it out we'll get whatever designs we have, and we'll narrow it down to 3, and then we'll have community voting on it, like we had for I don't know if you saw the new mural on the north side of the parking garage. Wasn't the one I picked, but I still think it really does enliven that whole space. So these things are coming, and we want to make sure that you're aware of them and enjoy them as much as we're trying to put the effort in to beautify downtown. So Arlene, I'm sorry about all that, but please come up and show your stuff.
Much lower. All right. My name is Arlene Tendick. Thank you for having me. Jane, thank you for inviting me. I've been to present at OCNA a couple times. This is my second time coming for blocks 5 and 20. I've been here before talking about Oceanside Transit Center. So tonight we're talking about 520. So as Jane mentioned, the project site is the 2 lots that are on Myers and Mission. Pierview Way bifurcates the site, so it's those 2 vacant parking lots. These 2 sites are part of the long-term vision for downtown Oceanside, so they were always intended for development. We're just sort of bringing that to fruition today. The project includes 193 units on Block 5, that's the northerly block, and 3,200 square feet of commercial. And then Block 20, the southerly one along Mission, is 180 units. Both of those each include 10% affordable housing. We started our community engagement in April, so we've been working with the city as well as the public and kind of amending our project accordingly, just based on what we hear from the public. We are hoping to have our public hearings in early 25, so we still have some work to do, but that's our goal. What we've heard so far really kind of falls into 2 major buckets. So there's these general areas of interest, not necessarily concerns, but really where our questions are generated from. Things like parking. Obviously, there are 2 parking lots right now, so people want to understand what public parking is going to look like in downtown. Community character and consistency really go hand in hand. With any development, change is scary, so you want to understand what's coming, how it impacts you, what it's going to do to the overall character. The types of commercial, landscaping and setbacks, construction impacts. As Victor alluded to, there's a ton of coordination that has to happen. A couple other people have mentioned that with all the change that's coming in downtown, a really coordinated effort around construction has been on people's minds and is something that we're taking really seriously too. Aesthetics, scale, height, density, and views. So those are really the high-level topics, and then we've also had really specific requests from people. The reason I'm getting into this is I'll show you how we amended our project in response to these things. So this part's important. Really looking at public art, that was a big one for Jane, and really making sure that the edge conditions are solid. So what people see from public spaces, particularly Mission, was really important to people. Because Pierview Way cuts right through the center of the project site, we see that as a really good opportunity to enhance community character. Right now, that underpass underneath the railroad tracks is, I don't know, sort of underutilized. It could be, it needs a little love. So just like the railroad tunnel is getting a facelift, we envision this as an opportunity to really spruce this area up so that it's safer, more walkable, and that people are drawn to this space instead of, hurrying through or going a different route. So this is a bit of an eye chart, but we have made some project modifications in response to community feedback. So we can't make everyone 100% happy, but we hope that these modifications get us a little bit closer. So the first one is that we've added additional commercial space. So we had a lot of people say, we don't think that that's enough. So we went from about 3,000 square feet in our first iteration to about 7,500 now. I'm sorry, 4,000 square feet to about almost 8,000 now. So really making sure that we're adding where we can. There's also 2 areas that were initially dedicated as amenity space that we have converted into social gathering spaces that could be open to the public. So we did have a couple requests from people, and we want areas to hang out, maybe co-working spaces, places where the public can be invited in, and so we did add those areas as well. So I'll show that on the next slide. We've also added a location for a mural on Mission. So this elevation right here, it's kind of small, but there is a placeholder for a rather large mural, and the project will fund that and work with local stakeholder groups like Arts Commission or Arthritic Sites with Main Street Oceanside to really curate what that could look like. And then we have added additional planters and really increased the greenery along Mission, Myers, and Pierview to make sure that we're softening those edges and making it more inviting. The commercial is located on those major corners, and so the extra landscaping just helps soften that. And then we also added hanging vines and green wall mesh along the back. So we looked at other opportunities of how to beautify the area along the back of the building, which is the railroad track. So we do have hanging walls along there. All right. So this is the site plan on the first floor. So the areas in pink are the commercial areas. This one right, okay, you can. So you see the little blue cursor? This commercial spot is the new area to add further activation to Mission. So we want eyes on the street, more activity so that brings that area to life. These orange spaces are the areas that are identified for additional gathering areas. So I mentioned previously co-working space. There was someone that had suggested like surfboard storage if you come off of the beach and you want to go out to dinner and you need somewhere to put your board or clean up or what have you, that we're kind of workshopping those ideas, but more to come on that. This is the site plan from the roof. So anytime you have a large complex, we look at opportunities of how do we reduce the massing, how to make it feel smaller. So these 2 roof deck areas are strategically located to break up that massing. So this pool deck is on the 3rd floor, I believe, as is this one. So if you're on the street and you look up, it's not going to be 7 stories all the way up. You have these breaks in the building. There's also a roof deck here. Just for context, if you're not familiar with these 2 blocks, this building looks into the back of the Mission Pacific, and this one right here, block 5, looks in the back of the window. So this is the view of the front of the building, obviously with the additional context taken out. So again, Mission Pacific would be right here, and the window would be right here, and this is Pier View. So we do have townhomes included in here. The last time we were here at OCNA, we did not have very clear imagery, so that's really the bulk of my slides, is just updated imagery so y'all can see more of the detail that we weren't able to share last time, so we didn't have last time. So these are On these two buildings, the big difference between them is the materials and the coloring. So at this scale, it's kind of hard to tell, but they do differ. They do differ in the types of coloring, the massing, the way that they're broken up, and just some of the finer details. This is the view of Block 20 at the corner. So if you're standing in the middle of Mission at Myers with Seabird behind you looking towards the block, we've added a lot more glass. This is so it looks more porous, more inviting. And then this is a commercial space on the end. We don't have tenants identified yet, but there is opportunities for outdoor dining. So the way that you see at Pierside North and South, where they have those cafes on the corners, something similar. This is Block 5. Again, if you're at Mission Pacific looking towards Pierview, this is what that commercial side would look like. And then this is standing back between, on Pierview, between Wyndham and Mission Pacific. This is what that entryway to Pierview would look like. We've talked to a couple people that we've met through our outreach that just have different ideas of how you could make this space more welcoming. Our project doesn't control Pierview, so we can't make any changes to the actual street or the way the walkway is right now, where all the painting is on the ground. But really finding ways to make sure that our commercial makes that an open plaza experience, and so that if you are there could be opportunities for, live music or different things like that. The city or other groups like Arts Commission could help. Great. We have paid a lot of attention to view corridors. So I mentioned some of the feedback we've heard is just concerns over views, especially public views. So we did have this image prepared. This is the view from Pierview Way at Cleveland. So Salt is on the right, and then Pierview North is right here. So this would be the project looking, and you can still have peekaboo views of the ocean. So we've had 2 public meetings, and we've done a handful of stakeholder presentations. Like I said, we've done 2 here, one at Main Street Oceanside. We've been to the chamber. We're open to meeting with anybody one-on-one. So we've met with a couple neighboring property owners too. Each time we meet, we amend the project as we're able. Sometimes we're not able to make big full-scale changes, but we do make an effort to communicate back to people if we can do something or if we can't as well. So just being transparent in that way. We are hoping for public hearing in early 25, but again, that's with all development, that's a moving target. So we'll see. With that, any questions? Hi, Jill.
I just want to say thank you. I went to early meetings and pushed for the parkways to have actual street trees on the street. Trees that are in a front yard, trees that are back from the street are not helpful. They're not street trees. You have street trees. Thank you.
We the same. Thank you, Jill. Okay. Yeah.
So, I remember these lots. Is this property still owned by the Ute Indians?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so, I remember way back when they designed each one of those lots. Lot number 5 was to be low density. Mm-hmm. And I know things changed. Yeah. Is that 7 stories?
Yeah. Block 5 is 8, and block 20 is 7.
That's crazy. So the setbacks that you have, that you're saying the peekaboo, mm-hmm. How far back is that from the peer view and things of that sort? I mean, yeah. If I'm looking at that picture, it makes me believe that they're pretty far back, but are they in line with the other buildings? And the reason I'm asking that is we're getting to the point where it's just dark down there with sun and light, right, coming through, and is that any consideration whatsoever?
Yes.
Too many questions at once.
No, it's good. Jane, how am I on time?
You're fine.
Okay, Jane runs a tight ship, so I always check it. Okay, I I don't have the exact measurement with me right now, but if you want to give me your email address, I am happy to follow up with you tomorrow. Happy to
I'm
do
just
that.
curious, is it set back a great distance, or is it just a couple of feet?
I believe we just meet the city's requirement for side setbacks,
Okay.
but I don't want to misspeak,
That's
so.
fine. I'm not pointing this, I'm just curious of
No, it's good.
if they
It's a-
thought about that at all.
It's a good question. So we also don't want to create a dark tunnel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have thought about it. We view this kind of plaza experience at Pierview as much as a community amenity as it is for future residents amenity
Right.
too. So we want this to be, like I said, safe and welcoming and used. You know, I mean, it's a great connection to downtown. Whenever I'm down here, I use it, but it's not nearly as well traveled as some of the other, you know, like as Mission, for example.
Right.
I know obviously there's different things when you walk down Mission, but anyways, just making sure that those connections are there and that people know about them. There's also public parking within the SALT building. There's 340 public parking spaces, and so even just that connection through Pierview is a really valuable one. So yeah, we agree. We don't want it to be in a dark, sad wind tunnel. We want it to be used. So happy to look into setbacks for you. Kevin.
So, prior plan that the gentleman was talking about envisioned the 9-block master plan. And the 9-block master plan aggregated a lot of the public open space in this location, which I think, I might be wrong a little bit, but I think it was 25,000 square feet. So now we're going from 25,000 square feet of public open space to, what is it now? Not 4,000, but.
Sorry, say that we
So
have.
the public open space that you were talking about.
Yeah, we
what
have
is that?
8,000 square feet of commercial.
Okay, and then how much public space?
That I have to look up. I don't know. It's not 25,000 square feet, so we are amending the original master plan. That is true. So what Kevin is referring to is the 9-block master plan. It was the original vision for, actually, I think I might have saved it. Hold on. There we go. Okay. This block, I thought it might come up. So these 9 blocks right here, they're already developed. Again, these two in blue are our project. They're the last two of that original vision. Always intended for these 9 blocks to be redeveloped. So in time, projects have come online. SALT, the Spring Hill, Wyndham, Seabird, Mission Pacific. Several years ago, the 9-block master plan was amended down to 5 blocks, which is Pierview North and South, which Ryan Companies is the developer of blocks 5 and 20. They developed Pierview North and South too, and Spring Hill Suites. So they've been in the mix for a while and just kind of looking at how Oceanside has evolved, how downtown has evolved, and just kind of revisiting that plan. But yeah, it always has been planned for development, so we are kind of looking at that plan with fresh eyes and looking at being able to provide affordable housing in this location is a big goal as well. Yes.
Was the plan to address the displaced parking, just having people go into the existing SALT parking lot? And then what about the parking for the units that are planned there?
Good question. So regarding replacement just at SALT, no. But there is a lot of public parking available downtown that people just don't know about. So we've had two, you're laughing, I hope it's because you have seen that, but we've had 2 public meetings, and as we talk to people about like, oh, did you know that Oceanside Transit Center has this many spots, that SALT has this many spots, there's a public lot here, there's a public lot there, and they're like, huh. And so I think greater education around that, what parking is already available, is something that we're looking at as well. For parking within the project, I think there we go. 422 spaces are required for the residences. Our last proposal had 545. A lot of times in outreach we talk about like, well, we're fine, but your new people are gonna come and gobble up all the street parking, or, we've talked about that before. for. So we wanted to make sure that the residences are adequately parked so that we're not impacting the existing community. And then for commercial and the public spaces, we're just meeting the city's requirement. So 39 spaces are required, 39 are provided. Yeah. No, you're fine.
To follow up on this.
Yes.
The residential parking will be located where? Is it underneath the building itself?
We have one level of subterranean, and then it's in the.
And then if other parking is gonna be displaced, you say commercial and public, and you're referring to the Oceanside Train Center, which is nearby, but is that gonna create a congestion problem on the Oceanside trains? Such that commuters won't be able to park there?
No. So OTC, there's the existing public parking structure that's there right now. City-owned public parking structure. And then within OTC, the new project, or the project includes a new public parking structure that replaces all the existing parking that you see at the transit center. So I believe there's about 800 spots in that the new public parking structure. So it replaces what's there, and it also adds more. So yeah.
So a mix of NCT parking and public parking to use in downtown?
Correct.
Okay.
Lane.
I always was curious when it comes to commercial parking in something. Say you have 4,000 square feet of proposed retail. You know, when you consider employees of each of these retail establishments, does that ever factor in of where the
It does,
employees?
yeah. So the requirements based on just there's a formula. So
Okay.
based on how many square feet you have, you tinker around with products. Yeah, no, yes, is the short answer. Yes, Jen.
Do you have a transit demand management plan? Which would mean that even though you could provide 1,000 parking spaces,
Yes.
they won't be there for one of us who wants to park there, because the more parking you have, the more cars you get,
Sure.
and it just feeds on itself. So what is the transit demand management plan that gets us down there without our cars?
Yes.
Or somebody else without their car?
Can I email you about TDM? I don't have that with me now.
But we need, at some point, we need to hear that.
Well,
Yeah,
one of the things,
okay.
Arlene, that maybe you can help with
Yes.
is we have that Go Side shuttle that if I'm asking all developers to support that financially,
Yeah.
to help them with their, not only their residents, but also to bringing current residents into some of their amenities, so that cars aren't required. But not everybody can ride a bike, not everybody can walk that distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we need something like that, and right now it's being funded, primarily through Visit Oceanside and some city funds.
Yeah.
But it really needs to be a perpetuity, a perpetual thing, that, all these developers need to kick in some money to make sure that they can facilitate, not just for their residents, but for
Sure.
everyone.
Yeah, I think that, so kind of switching hats a little bit, that's one thing that we talk about a lot at the Oceanside Transit Center project is that first mile, last mile. Oceanside is really lucky because of her transit connectivity. There's not a lot of cities that are as connected as you all, but once you get to where you're going, what's next, right? And Go Side for downtown is a huge part of that. So yes.
Yeah, please. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up, but I will get the presentation from Victor, and I'll put it on the OCNA 101 website. It'll be underneath this link for the actual video, and also I'll request we'll have this also, this current presentation from Arlene on the 5 and 20 lots, on the website too. So give me a couple of days, and then we'll get that updated. Remember, we don't have a meeting in December, but we will have one in January. We're gonna have the board of directors, officer, voting, so please be sure to watch for your green flyers and, participate in that. And, let's see what else. I think that's it. I just wanna wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a merry holiday, whatever that holiday is for you.